All right. So this tutorial is going to essentially show you how to create a pop art image in the style of Andy Warhol. Now we're talking about Andy Warhol is from the 60s, the mid 60s. He was very big in the art um, field, in the art world. He did a lot of these sort of really high contrast, very high saturated images, or I'm sorry, the style of image. Now, what you're looking at here, these other images that I'm showing you, these are like these were created by other artists. But this one with Marilyn Monroe is an example of one that he has created. So we're going to be doing that. But what I'd like you to do is consider using either um, your own image, an image of somebody in your family or a friend. If not any of that, then pick your favorite celebrity. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Either way would be fine. I'm going to use my own picture. Okay, so here we are. We're in Photopea. What I'm going to do is first we're going to create a new project. We're going to open up a blank document and then import the image right on top of that. So what I'd like you to do is choose print instead of screen or mobile or any of these other social. Pick print and then choose letter because we want the 300 DPI resolution, the dots per inch. Hit create, and we've got our letter size 8.5 by 11 document. The next thing we're going to do is, now I'm assuming you've already gone out and found the photo that you want to use. It cannot be a cartoon. It can't be SpongeBob SquarePants. You got to use a photograph. Okay, so I'm going to import my photo. And now you click on File, go down to Open and Place. And then you will select, let's see, in the downloads, there's my image, open, and it puts it right on the document. Now, what I'm going to do next is, first of all, when you put it in here, it doesn't quite put it in all the way. It gives you the ability to resize it, but I'm not going to. Hit the check mark in the upper right corner, and that locks it in place. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, or I'm sorry, the next thing we're going to do is I need to select just my body out of this image. So to zoom in, I can grab my magnifying glass and click once, or press the Alt key to click and move zoom out. That's perfectly fine. Another way to zoom in is press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard, or if you're on a Mac, that would be the Opt key. And while you're holding it, roll your mouse wheel forward. Okay, and then you can zoom out by rolling out backward. Okay, so let's come up to the selection tool. I am going to right click on the selection tool and you'll see you have a number of options. If we do a quick selection, that gives you the ability to literally do a quick selection. It selects just the areas that it believes are connected to the object you're selecting. Now, you're going to find this may or may not work appropriately at all times. And I'm going to show you why that is. Now, I just clicked, but it gave me an error message. Smart object must be rasterized first. Rasterize and click OK. I'm going to not do that, but I'll explain. Your image, when you bring it in, you import it, it creates a smart object. So it makes it so that you can't hurt the image. We need to break it out of the smart object. And you can see that box that's on your thumbnail on the layer. That means it's a smart object. So let's right click on the layer and click rasterize. That box is now gone and we are able to, well, pretty much ruin the image if we wanted to. We're not going to, but we can now select parts of that image. So if I click and drag downward, all right, or actually if I Control D will deselect, okay, if you just do a hold Control or Command, if you're on a Mac, and then press the D and you'll deselect that. So I'm going to just try that again. Click once on my head. I'm going to click on the once on my glasses. I'm just doing a click, not a click and drag. All right, so now I've selected, let's see, let me get my arm down there. Now you notice it's grabbing the chair. It's also grabbing part of this area back here. So it's not accurate, it's not perfect, but it gives you a starting point. So I'm going to go ahead, and it went around the edge of my head as well. What it's doing when you're doing a quick selection is it's actually grabbing the area of color that's distinct from other areas of color. So it grabbed the chair because when I went to grab the color of my arm, that's really similar in color. So it thinks that the chair is part of my arm. That's what's happening in this. So now that I've got a selection, I'm going to come down to my raster mask, or in Photoshop, it's the layer mask, and just simply click. And it adds the layer mask to the layer and it takes out everything and leaves it actually connected. I mean, it left too much here. Like I was saying, it connected the selection to the chair. Now, here's what I'm going to do to get rid of that. Make sure that your brackets are on the mask itself. If your brackets, notice if I click on the other thumbnail and the brackets are over here, I might ruin the image. I don't want to do that. So click on the layer mask or the raster mask and grab your brush tool. And with black, you're going to start to paint away. You're going to hide. Remember, black hides. And then if I flip, clicking on those two little arrows right there, white reveals, right? So now if you have a gray or some other color in here, click on the D. That gives you the default black and white. Now I want black to hide, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to make my brush fairly large, and let's just start to hide the stuff that I don't want, even like right there, and then there, oops, there, and then we'll just come right alongside here. Don't worry about getting making it so precise. You really don't have to worry about that. And I'll when we get into making the pop art, I think you'll see the where it's not as precise. The lack of precision is going to help the look of this, and I'll show you why. So let me reduce the size of my brush so I can get right in there. I want to reduce it again, or actually increase it again, sorry. So I can come back around this side. There we go. And then clean that stuff up. Okay, there we go. Now my beard there doesn't look all that great, so I'm just gonna flip it to white and then paint that stuff in right there. Okay. Oh, now I went too far out. Flip it back to black, and just keep doing this. Just keep modifying your image until you have the look that you want. Okay, reduce the size of the brush. Okay, there you go. Now I'm missing some over here, so I'm going to flip it back to white because I want to reveal my glasses. Let's make the brush larger. I'm going to paint this whole area. There you go. And then flip it back to black. It is a little bit tedious. You know, you're going back and forth, back and forth, black and white, back and forth. There we go. All right, one last little fix, one tiny little fix. I'm just getting a little bit too much of a perfectionist with that right there. Okay, there we go. I've got my image. Now, the next step is we're going to start to we need to make this a black and white image. First thing I want to do, though, I want to change the size. We're going to make 4 of these. And to do that, I'm going to hit the transform controls. And now, when I'm scaling it down, notice what's going on. I'm ruining the image. That's because I simply clicked that upper node and dragged. Well, here's what you do to avoid that. Press and hold your Shift key at the same time that you click on this upper arrow, this upper node, and you will keep the width and height of your image. Bring it to about 1/4 of the size of the page, and then hit your check mark. Now, turn off the transform controls, and let's bring this down about right there, and we'll zoom in. We are going to be making 4 versions of this, but I'm only going to start with one. Okay, so we're going to just go with one, and then we'll copy it over 4 times, and I'll show you how you do the next step. Okay, so what I want you to do next is put your bracket on the thumbnail image of the layer. So we're going to adjust the actual picture. And what I want you to do next is go to filter. Wait, hold on, forgive me. No, sorry. You're going to go to image, adjustments, down to threshold. Threshold is going to change this image to black and white. And notice if I take this threshold slider and go all the way down, it disappears, or all the way up, it makes it like a silhouette. We're going to drop it back. We want the details to be there, but we certainly don't want it all black, and we don't want it all white. I kind of like it right in the middle there. I want to just about like that. Notice the top of my head is missing. That's because I am bald. Okay. You guys that have hair, you will still see your hair for the most part. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And there we go. Now, here's the thing. I want you to add one layer in between the background and your image. So the way to do that is select the background layer and then come down to the bottom of the layer panel and hit new layer. When you do that, it always puts a layer above the one that you've selected. That's why I selected the background layer. So it goes right above. Now double click on the word layer 1, and we're going to call that colors, because that's where you're going to put your colors. Now, let's just for the sake of showing you what happens, I'm going to choose a color by clicking on the white box down here in the corner. Let's go with green. Click OK. And if I put green here, see, there's the green, but underneath me, my head there is, everything is white. We don't want that. We want to change the blending mode of the image. So click on the image layer, choose this drop-down menu, and let's choose a blending mode. Now you can go through and select one that you like. If you'd like to just click on a number of them and see what they do. Some of them will not do what you want. Okay, so that's getting close to what we want. I'm actually going to choose linear burn. What that does is it shows the black stays constantly visible, and the white disappears, as you can see. And then as you paint through, oh no, I just painted on the layer for the image. Sorry. Make sure you're on the color layer, and you can see the color below. Now I'm going to clear that area and start fresh. So the colors that I want, let's take a look at one of the Andy Warhol images. So you got a bunch of different images here with different colors in the face. I'm going to start with this kind of violetish sort of color in my face. We'll do that. Grab this color maybe, and like a lighter color. There we go. Excuse me. Make the brush whatever size you need it. Make sure you're on the right layer. And then let's see if I can get the top of my head first. Right across there. I'm improvising. I think that's what the top of my head looks like. I'm going to reduce the size of the brush with the brackets. Remember, the bracket key is next to the P key on your keyboard. And then just go right in there. Make it a bigger brush now. Here we go. There. Oh, let's get my chin. Oh, I went too far out. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a layer, a raster mask or a layer mask onto that layer, and then go to black, flip it to black, because I want to get rid of the stuff that I just painted on the outside there. Okay, now let's make sure that the brackets are on your image layer again, not on the raster mask area. I'm sorry, layer. I meant thumbnail. That's what I meant to say, the image. You're going to now pick a different color for the picture. So let's go ahead and choose that. Let's go with a green right in there for the shirt. Okay, now notice I'm going outside the perimeter of my shirt. Don't worry about that. I'll show you what we do next at the very end. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to add is I don't like the color of the glasses. I'm going to actually change it to a kind of a blue. I want to add blue in my glasses there. And you could easily zoom in. If I want, you can zoom in. Remember how I did that? I pressed the Alt key and then rolled the mouse wheel forward, and it gets it easier easier to manipulate what you're doing. I did go out a little bit. Don't worry about that. Control Z does an undo. Holding Control or Command, and then press the Z key. And that does an undo. All right. Now zoom out. There I am. There's my pop art Mr. Block. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I want to add a color to the background layer. Now, go ahead and click on the background layer. I'm going to uncheck the lock just by clicking once on the lock. And then I'm going to, let's grab my rectangle selection tool. Let's just make a box around the back part of me. And I'm going to make, what color? Let's go with that color right there. Okay, and now you'll find the paint bucket tool to drop a color in a large area right inside the gradient tool. And the way to get to it is you right click on the gradient tool. Any of these that have these little down arrows, you'll find more tools inside. So we're going to choose that paint bucket, and then make sure you're on the background layer and click. All right. There it is. The last thing we're going to do is, there are not the last thing, but the last thing we're going to do to this one box, this one image. I need you to select all 3 layers. And the way that you do that, right now we've got the background layer selected. Press and hold the Shift key on the keyboard, and then click on the next layer and then the next layer. Then you can let go of Shift, and you're going to come down to where the folder is at the bottom of the panel. Click, and it puts all 3 of those layers into a folder. Now we're going to clean up the area. Now notice, first of all, notice that I still have that box selected. If I do a Control or Command, Control D to deselect that selected area, I'm going to select a different area now. So we've got the folder made. I want to come right inside the area right up here, just like this. Okay, and what I'm doing by selecting that area is I'm cutting off this bottom and the outer area. And now that I've got that selected with the folder selected, come down and add a raster mask. You just click on that raster mask, and it cuts off that whole area. Okay, now here we go. We're almost done. Almost done. What I'm going to have you do, make sure that transform controls are off. Make sure that auto select is off. If you have this checked, what will happen is it's going to want to actually break it apart. You don't want to do that. Uncheck auto select and make sure that the whole folder is selected. Let's close that up. And you can now move this folder around. Here's what we're going to do. With the folder selected, holding Control or Command on an Apple or on a Mac, Control J will duplicate that layer, and you're going to do that 3 times. Okay, we got 3 extra versions. Now you just click on this one right here, grab it. Let's move this over and put it right next to it, right there. Choose the one above that, grab this, and let's move that up to here. And then the last one, we're going to take that and move that. Oops, wait a minute. Sorry. Come on, bring it. Oop. Let's get that back. Sorry, I moved it out of the way. All right, and then the last one, let's just make sure. Yeah, that's going to be here. Right there. We're going to put that one up here. So now that you have 4 images, the last thing that you're going to do with this is go through and make the changes to each of the other 4 images. We don't want them to be exactly the same, just like we see in the Marilyn Monroe. You can do one that's got yellow hair, one that's got purple hair, one that's got orange hair, one that's got a different background color. Do change the color in each area. And the way to do that is, so this one, if you turn the eye on and off, you can see which one we're doing here, and that is this right there. Hit the down arrow, choose the background layer, and now let's choose a different color for the background layer. I'm going to choose a blue for that background layer. Grab the bucket, the paint bucket, and click. Okay, now that's for the background. For the colors, we're going to make sure that you click on the colors layer and put the brackets. Make sure it's not on the mask. You want it on the image itself. Grab your brush tool, change a color. I'm going to go with more of a kind of a skin tony sort of a color, like that, and then start to paint. There you go. Now you could zoom in if you want to just zoom in on this area. You zoom in a little bit. Try not to go outside the lines. If you do, remember you've got the, like if I go out here, oops, you can go here to the, what is it? The mask. Select, I'm going to hit D for the default black and white. Flip it to the black so that I'm using the black part. Take that right off. Okay, and then put your brackets back onto the color. Choose the color again because I just now clicked off of that. Now, when you click the color picker, by the way, when you click on this, when you come outside this color picker, it gives you the crosshairs, which means you can pick any of the colors that you see here. So I'm going to pick the skin tone again and just go around and repaint this whole thing. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to actually stop right there. You guys get the point. I think you understand what it is that I'm doing. Paint each section separately. I want you to take the time and make it interesting. Okay. And when you are all done, you're going to then go up to File. You could save the PSD, which keeps all of the layers and all that stuff. You can definitely save that and put that up into your Google Drive, but do not submit the PSD to this assignment. You're going to export it as a JPEG. When you do that, the JPEG image, and make it a quality of 100% and hit save. And there it is. And that's the image you're going to turn in.